Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed. It's episode 102. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jasmin. And before we get started, welcome. This is sort of ish a Halloween-y episode. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. We really appreciate your eyeballs on this video. We would also appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe to our channel. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, that is wonderful as well. We appreciate that. We would also very much love it if you would give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, or Spotify. Oh man.
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry, I just got a bit thrown off then. I went into a daydream, I'll be honest. Is that voice, Jasmin?
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, go on, you jump in. So, like Jasmin said before we start, well, we said it last week, but before we start recording, we're not trying to not cover news, but we thought this was a good follow-on from last week.
Yeah, because we kind of, when we talked about Black Adam, spoiler, if you have not seen Black Adam, pause this right now. But we talked about Black Adam last week and the return of Henry Cavill as Superman, and turns out that is going to be a much bigger time commitment because Henry Cavill has officially left The Witcher. He will be replaced. Liam Hemsworth is going to be stepping in as Geralt of Rivia. I'm sad to see Henry go. I only ever had two people in mind for Geralt. If they went young, Henry Cavill was my choice. If they went old, Mads Mikkelsen was my choice. Those were the only two guys I could ever see taking on the role of The Witcher. So, but I think that Liam is actually one of the more talented Hemsworths. And for the longest time, I thought he was actually a better actor than Chris. But now I realize that Chris is much funnier. So maybe it's just that Chris hadn't been doing the right things, or it wasn't until Taika took over the helm of the Thor films that they got a lot better. But I don't have a problem with Liam. I think Liam Hemsworth is pretty talented. So I'll be interested to see what his version of Geralt is like. But oh boy, here comes the drama. Netflix just can't hold it together, can you, Netflix?
I saw this, I think, yesterday, the news about Liam Hemsworth, and the comments were not.
People are brutal.
But it wasn't necessarily like aimed at Liam Hemsworth particularly. I think they were just more like annoyed about recasting, and the people hate recasting. I've said this before. I hate recasting.
Well, this is kind of odd. It's like we've gotten 3 seasons of The Witcher we'll have 3 seasons of The Witcher with Cavill, and then suddenly the 4th season is going to be someone totally different.
I don't know. Like, so some of the comments I read were like they would rather wait for The Witcher to, even if it was a year or two, and then Henry Cavill come back.
Yeah.
And so I was saying to you before we recorded that maybe being British, some of our bigger shows, some of the, like Sherlock with what's his name? Crap, I forgot it again.
Cumberbund.
Yeah,
Cumberbatch.
And Martin Freeman. They're obviously Hollywood favorites as well.
Yeah.
But sometimes the gaps between seasons of Sherlock can be quite huge, and it's the same when we had Luther. I think Luther's finished now, but the first 2 or 3 seasons of Luther, Idris Elba wasn't as big as he is now. Mm-hmm. But as the later series was coming out, there's bigger and bigger gaps. And the first series of Luther was like 6 episodes, and then they got smaller and smaller. I think there was one season of Luther that was only 2 episodes, and I can't remember which season that was, but that was like my least favorite because they tried to cram kind of 4 episodes into 2 episodes, and I was like, there was way too much in that. I'd much rather have waited a little bit longer and had an actual proper series. And so I haven't watched The Witcher. I've only ever seen the first episode. The Witcher is on my to watch list, along with many things.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to watch it, by the way, but I just thought, I agree with those comments. Actually, would we, if I was a fan of The Witcher, I'd much rather see a 2 or 3 year gap and then have The Witcher come back. We've seen it. There's the odd American show that does it. Like, I think Westworld had a bigger gap. That's because of, I think, budget. It's quite an expensive show to make, and there's a lot of CGI involved, and they probably just want to make it right. So I if I was watching The Witcher, I would more than happily have a 2 or 3 year break.
As a fan, yes. As a company, Netflix cannot afford it. They have been going through all kinds of financial problems this year, after, things sort of started to relax and things started to open up and people weren't quite staying at home as much anymore with COVID, Netflix is losing subscribers like by the millions, and they don't have the capacity to wait. So I think this whole thing you can chalk up to like just a poorly run organization, sort of like whatever the hell is going on between the WB and HBO Max. Like Netflix is just it's under poor management at the moment, and they're trying to do what they can to keep everything going, but I don't know. This doesn't seem like the move.
I did see, by the way. I know again we're talking about news here, but the Disney Plus have managed to secure the international rights for Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, I heard
So
that.
so the BBC will still do it on BBC over here in the UK, but the rest of the world is getting Doctor Who fix on Disney Plus now.
Hmm.
So because of that, the BBC obviously going to get more money. So it's a good move for the BBC. So they'll be able to get more money that they can invest in Doctor Who, potentially other British things. I mean, Netflix they should have done something like that themselves. So I mean,
Well, we were talking before we started. There are two people that have deep enough pockets to pick up Netflix. So Netflix is either going to wind up on Disney Plus or Amazon.
yeah, or well, I guess maybe HBO.
I don't think they have the money.
So
I just not the way that they're kind of cutting all their programming on Max. I don't see HBO doing it.
or maybe a merger with Netflix and Paramount Plus or something like that. So
Oh, Paramount. I mean,
Paramount's quite small, so if Netflix merged,
Paramount is owned by who though? They're owned by one of the big networks. Is it CBS or are they owned by
so yeah,
NBC?
CBS.
Okay, yeah. So CBS has, I mean, in the US, CBS is big because of sports. Like they do a lot of NFL, like they do a lot of the big sports coverage here. So CBS in the US has deep pockets. I don't really know that CBS has the reach outside of the US, but
Yeah, I mean, if they got CBS and Paramount Plus and Netflix merged, I mean, maybe you could have maybe it could be called Netflix Plus or something. So
we'll see. Well, Netflix did they've got that new tier where it's like, oh, well, now you can just pay for ads and it's going to be cheaper. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. They're trying to get rid of binging and go to like a weekly kind of Netflix is trying new things, but like the whole reason that people flock to the Netflix platform in the first place was to binge. So if you take away the binge ability of Netflix, what the hell is the point? Like, what
yeah,
makes you any different than anyone else?
yeah, but I guess it's because Disney and Amazon are not doing the binge format anymore. So
Yeah.
I think Amazon did do it, but then Amazon stopped because Amazon were like, well, actually, people are signing up for like a month watching the show and then dipping out again.
Yeah.
So if we just keep it weekly release, I think Amazon's approach sometimes quite good. They drop the first 3 episodes or
Yes.
something, and then the next 6 episodes come out weekly.
Yeah.
So maybe Netflix needs to move to that. I'll be honest, I'm not that bothered about potentially binging because I don't get that much time to binge anymore. So
See, I don't have the time week to week. So I prefer like I have a free weekend. I could get 3 things like moving on to the next topic. Like this yesterday, after I finished rewatching 30 Days of Night, I watched an entire docuseries on Netflix in one sitting. I
wow.
watched their I Am a Stalker series. Have you heard of
No,
that or seen
I've
it?
heard of it. I've not seen it.
So I don't even know how it pops up because like mostly on my feed on Netflix, it's all K dramas. And so like in between all of my K dramas, it was like I Am a Stalker. I was like, what is this about? Wow. First of all, let me just say, in the US, nobody gives a shit about women. Like the way that these women were treated by the authorities and by the people in charge, like in this documentary, it was just ridiculous. And it's just like it was hard to watch, and like it was like a train wreck. Like I couldn't stop myself. It's 8 episodes, they're about 45 minutes each, and it was just kind of one failing after another, after another, after another, after another. And I'm just like, no wonder it's really hard for people that are victims of like domestic abuse and domestic violence to get help. It's like you have to jump through so many hoops, and the authorities usually can't do anything until something has physically happened to you. Like there has to be an altercation first before anyone can jump in to like help you or protect you. And I was like, so basically you have to get beaten before the cops are like, okay, now we can do something about it. So it's just like a really frustrating watch of like the American justice system. I'm not saying that I recommend this to people, but like if you are interested in the true crime kind of stuff, it was interesting in that regard to see like what these women went through, what kind of jail time some of these people get, and how little government institutions care about stalking. Like it's not even, I mean, it's not even, burglary is a bigger sort of punishable offense than stalking someone, which is really quite scary. So that was my binge for the weekend.
I've not seen it at all. I haven't had time to watch much TV this week. Watched a couple more episodes of Narcos, but that's about it.
That's about it. But you went somewhere.
I went to the cinema.
Oh.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, went and saw. So it was half term over here. Obviously, do you know what half term is?
I'm assuming it's like spring break or something.
Oh yeah, half term is a week's holiday in between school. So, so I have two kids, in case nobody knew, and
I would hope anybody that is a regular listener knows that Mark has two kids.
So I took a couple of days off, trying to figure out things to do that don't cost the earth. And we booked a family ticket to go to the cinema. It was a film that's been out a while, but none of us had seen it. So we went and saw Minions 2, The Rise of Gru.
I love the Minions. They're so cute.
Well, do you know what? Honestly, those films are hilarious. Like,
yeah.
For adults as well as kids. So my 8-year-old, she struggles to sit through a whole film. Well, both my kids struggle to sit for a whole film. But my 8-year-old was actually sitting up, like you could see her arms animated during the film. She was laughing, you know, just like there's one scene where Gru has a shower and like his little bum comes out and he's like got his towel and like my wife was dying, my kids were dying, like I think it was a great. Do you know what's the Despicable Me, the first film? What's the name of the villain? I've forgotten. Vector. So there's like I love all the like little nods to the later films. Like Gru goes up to the bank of evil and is chatting to the cashier or something, and then he turns some photo around and was like, "Oh, that's my son, Vector," or like no, I didn't say Vector, but there's a picture on Vector.
Yeah.
And so it was just there's all these little nods. So we met the professor. Oh crap, I forgot his name. The professor who works with Gru in the later
Professor
films.
Nefarious.
Yeah,
or Dr. Nefarious.
Yeah, Dr. Nefarious. So we meet Dr. Nefarious is like maybe 2 scenes or something in the movie. But that sort of Gru and him get together at the end of the film, and so it's quite. I think it's quite good how like Gru is meant to be the villain, but kind of almost always ends up being a hero.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he sort of accidentally saves the day all the time. So yeah, you get to see him go on this adventure. He wants to join this gang of evil villains with stupid, crazy names, and I love how like in this world how villains are just out there in the public and like people have posters of them and stuff like that, and like how they must pose for photo shoots and all this kind of stuff. And so over in the real world, you know, real villains would never
be so public.
like be so public or photo shoots or anything. It's just a really fun, to be honest, it's a really funny film. I thought it was great, so I really enjoyed it. Do you know what, even if you didn't have kids, it's actually quite
I love the Minions. I actually caught up because I'd never seen the first like Minions film with Sandra Bullock as the villain, and on my last long 16-hour flight I watched that film, and I feel really bad for the people that were sitting next to me because I giggled like an idiot throughout that entire film. It was just stupid fun.
You obviously haven't seen The Rise of Gru, but watch it if you can. Watch it. It's actually really funny. So I won't say any more. I mean, it's not really a film that anyone particularly cares if it got ruined, but
but still.
Yeah, I won't say more, but yeah, it's good. I would like to know what's going to happen next. Apparently, I did Google it. Apparently, there is going to be a Despicable Me 4.
Yeah.
I didn't look up and see if there's going to be another Minions film. I'm assuming there will be.
Yeah. It's a moneymaker. Also, like they had they created one of those, I don't know, like an infinite run game. It was a mobile game. My God. I was addicted.
Oh, so was I, yeah.
Like I got so, like, I was so bad up on that game that eventually I had to delete it from my phone because I would just spend like hours playing the Minion Run, and I'm just
It's
like,
yeah, the
oh my
Minion Run. Where
God,
you
what
had
is
to
wrong with you? Yes.
keep moving the minion left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And they keep getting faster and faster.
Yes.
Yeah. I honestly, I was literally the
Obsessed.
same.
I was obsessed with that game. It's so fun. It is so fun, and you just get like lost in the sauce for real. Like,
And
be careful
I
if
just
anyone
wanted
ever
it to end.
downloads Minion Run. Like, you're in for some trouble.
I just wanted that game to end. I was like, come on, there must be like a finish line at some point. There
No.
wasn't. And then the
No.
moment you'd get killed off, you'd have to do it again.
Yep. I deleted it, and then I was like, I am never downloading this again. That was like 2 phones ago. It's like, I'm never downloading this game again. It's too addictive. I'm through with you.
That game was a long time ago. I think that game was like 8 years ago.
Yeah, it was forever ago. But like, they kept updating it, and you would get like themed updates. You get the holiday updates. You get the like special occasion updates. Oh my God, I was obsessed.
I'm thinking we should stop talking about it because now I feel like gonna look it up. Like, there's only one game I keep on my phone. Well, I have Roblox on my phone, but that's not for me. Like, I have Angry Birds. I actually have downloaded. But I downloaded and paid for. I think it's only like £1 or something. It's like the original Angry Birds that has no add-ons, no pay to play. I literally I don't want any of that pay to play stuff. Like, I just want to be able to go on there and play it.
Yeah,
and it's fully downloaded, so that way you don't need the internet or anything. So occasionally, the other day I was on a train going into London, and on the way back, I was just kind of bored, so I started playing Angry Birds on the train. But so I keep that on there just purely because occasionally there is a time where you're like, I need something to do with my hands.
Yeah.
Like, and but Angry Birds is it. But no, I am not playing that Gru game.
No, I'm not downloading it again. It's not happening. I'm telling you, it's like, it is bad for my psyche.
So yeah, just in summary, Minions 2 actually really funny, and I would watch that again. So yeah, they're all good movies, all the Despicable Me films and Minions movies. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're just good fun. Like, they're just good fun. They're fun for the kids, and there's enough adult humor that it makes it fun for the parents as well.
I don't think I've watched anything else this week, but anyway, we'll leave it there. And you wanted to talk about something?
Yes, it is Halloween. Spooky season. It's the very end of spooky season. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about horror, because we hardly ever cover horror like themed things throughout the year, mainly because I am very
neither of us like horror.
No, I am a chicken. Like, I like the auto slasher film. Like, we love Scream. We have established that, but like all of the other kind of horror films, not so much. They're really not up my alley. But I still wanted to know, like, what is your favorite horror film and why? Like, what's your favorite scary movie?
Well, for me, horror films, I'm not a big fan of them. When you say your favorite horror film, it probably still would be Scream. I just would say the first one. But I was having this conversation the other day. So I'm a Christian. I don't really want to celebrate Halloween, but I do think there's a big difference between what I see in Halloween in the UK versus what I see in Halloween in America. So, like, for instance, Kim Kardashian was dressed up as Mystique for Halloween. That I think is really cool. And I see a lot of Americans dressing up as superheroes, villains. I think Kim Kardashian's kids dress up as people like Tupac and stuff like that. See, that's all stuff I can kind of get behind because I think that's fun. It's fantasy. But over here in the UK, we seem to have only taken the horror aspect. And like when I go on the dog walks and stuff, like around here, so many houses have got like coffins outside, crime scenes, blood splatters, like dead corpses laying in their front garden. I'm not down with any of that. That's not for me.
That's a bit much.
Like, yeah, I'm not, not even if I wasn't a Christian, I feel like my views are that I don't want to see a dead body laying in the garden. I'm not all right with that. Like, so, so I'm not overly keen on that. Anyway, so I've never been, even growing up, I've never been the biggest horror fan. I think it was like 14 or 15 years ago, I watched Paranormal Activity. Like, some friends came around my house and said, do you want to watch that? And I said, not really. And so they were all like, no, I can't, let's watch it. So I ended up watching it, and honestly, I could not sleep. Like, the whole night, I could not sleep. And so what I think I've realized is when it comes to horror, I don't mind things like the Halloween movies. movies
Yeah.
or the Scream movies or I Know What You Did Last Summer because they're real human beings. Whilst okay, they're real human beings that clearly are mentally ill
Mm-hmm.
To another level, but it's kind of real world ish.
Yeah.
But I do not like I've never seen a single Hellraiser, and I'm not going to. It's never going to happen. So I know we watched the Fear Streets last year,
Mm-hmm.
and we did like a big episode on that. Now they were kind of a bit of both. They were kind of real world with a bit of fantasy.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't mind that as much. But yeah, and I think because they were toned down, they were like 15s, I probably
Mm-hmm.
was okay. But anything that plays in my mind, like Paranormal Activity, I can't do that. Not for me.
No, I'm the same.
Yeah, I think I don't know, I probably would say the first Scream movie is my favorite. If I was to choose a second, I actually really love Scream 3, just purely because of the twist at the end,
Yeah.
where very much where they take the trilogy aspect that they link back to the first movie. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was a cool twist that Sydney had a brother. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Probably a third, I would choose I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Okay.
Yeah. What about yourself?
So my favorite horror film is a film that still scares me to this day, like when I watch it, even though the CGI is not so great. But when I was a kid, we bought tickets to go see Spawn. Actually, I don't even know how we bought Spawn tickets because Spawn was rated R. Anyway, we bought tickets to go see Spawn. We went to go see Event Horizon instead. And to this day, Event Horizon is still like one of the scariest movies to me. Maybe
Oh,
just
yeah,
because
I
like
remember watching that. Yeah.
I was a kid when I saw it, but like Event Horizon. So it's about this crew that recovers a ship. The ship disappeared for a while. Nobody knows where it went. Turns out the ship went to hell and back, literally. And then it's just kind of like this gory psychological kind of like horror fest that happens throughout the film. And it's Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, and it is just this like it's like you don't get movies like that anymore. Like now space horror has to be so like monster driven. You don't have like the psychological space horror so much anymore. But yeah, Event Horizon is definitely probably still at this point my favorite horror film. Do you have a
What
favorite
about?
genre?
I was gonna say, do you have a second or third? Because
Um,
obviously I chose three.
second or third? I don't know. I mean, as far as like rewatchability, I don't know. Maybe Constantine would be up there, honestly. Uh, which we just covered a couple episodes ago, but I kind of like those kinds of like I do love the Scream series. I think that's always going to be a bit nostalgic to me because that was also like my teenage years growing up. But like really the psychological horror is the kind of stuff that I really like. The stuff that just kind of sticks with you after the film is done.
Um, you mentioned space horror. I watched a space horror years ago. Yeah, I actually could have looked this up. I didn't.
The one with Ben Foster.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
Ben Foster.
Yeah.
2009. It's called Pandorum.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know I was going to say that? Or do you remember? I
I
mentioned it
I think
before.
you've mentioned Pandora before.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, so Pandorum it's sci-fi, but like it is real world, so it's no supernatural element.
Yeah.
But there's monsters on the spaceship, and I honestly crapped myself throughout watching this film. I honestly did. Like there was points where I actually kind of got up and had to walk around a little bit,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
because I was watching it late at night, and even though not like it was in space and none of it's real, but I still there were points where I was so on edge, had to get up, walk around. I don't want to say in case no one's watched it, but what I loved, and this is where I probably would say horror movies where they're clever, I like, and there was a absolutely brilliant twist at the end,
Mm-hmm.
involving the sort of kind of monsters on the ship, but also where they were in space
Yeah.
was very clever. And have you seen it or not?
No. It
Yeah.
looked too scary to watch by myself. So I have not seen it.
Shall I spoil the ending? And
That's up to you.
oh, okay, I'll tell you what. Like, if no one wants to hear the ending, skip forward about 2 or 3 minutes. So basically, the spaceship was going from Earth to a planet. You know, the typical thing where it's, you know, and it's got a whole spaceship full of people in stasis pods, etc.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know how long the journey was going to be, like a couple thousand years or whatever it was. And at some point during the journey, some of those people woke up
Mhm.
and they became their own society and devolved and basically just became like a pack of animals and became cannibals because there wasn't enough food,
Mhm.
etc. So some of the other people wake up and don't know what's going on, etc. And they end up having to fight with these cannibals or the rest of it. And then there's a big sort of window in the spaceship where they open it up, and one of them says essentially that you know, everything's gone because they can't see any stars,
Mhm.
like which you would normally see wherever you were in space. And somehow, towards the end of the film, they realized that the spaceship had actually made it to the planet that they were going to,
Mhm.
and had probably been on the planet for like 100 years or something like that, but was at the bottom of the ocean. Had landed at the bottom of the ocean. So that I thought was a really cool twist, and all of the survivors eventually sort of beat the cannibals, and then they come up from the ocean, and you kind of see them coming up onto the land. I thought I'd love to see a sequel to that. That would be really cool. Obviously, you know, they'd want to make it horror again, so there probably
Yeah.
would be something on the planet. That
Of
would be
course.
really cool.
Yeah.
Like, and there probably would be something on the planet.
Yeah.
But like that would be a cool
That
follow
almost
up
feels
to.
very like Lost in Space.
Yeah, Lost in Space, but with horror. So,
Yeah. Okay. All right. I actually think space horror is my favorite genre of like horror films. I
yeah.
love because I'm a science nerd. I was obsessed with space. I almost majored in astronomy. So like space has always been like the thing that I love the most. So like stuff like Aliens. Aliens is probably one of my all-time favorite films. It's
Oh
definitely in
yeah.
my top five. But like that kind of space horror is my jam.
I forgot about Aliens. I think yeah. There's a lot of other things. Like I've watched the first three Saw movies. They were hard to watch, but
Yeah.
I didn't carry on beyond the third one. I love those as well because I thought the twists in those were pretty cool. So I
Yeah.
would say in terms of genre, I probably would say slasher slash real world
Okay.
movies. But I like it when there's an element of intelligence in them.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
to just see people just getting cut up, and but you know, it's just not for me. Like I don't want to. Yeah, that's almost like watching a snuff movie, isn't it? Like,
Ugh.
I'm
Yeah.
not down with any of that stuff. So
All right.
yeah.
So 30 Days a Night was a vampire film. Do you have a favorite of the vampire films? Any of them? Any vampire films stick out to you?
Well, I would say I reckon your favorite's Twilight.
I will end this podcast right now. How dare you?
No, I'm only joking. Do you know, I like Twilight. It's not a horror film, but you know,
It is a horrible film.
I don't mind Twilight. Like, but anyway, that's not a horror film.
Yeah.
I would say the thing that's coming straight in my head is Blade.
Okay. Okay.
I love Blade. Like, absolutely love Blade. Like, Blade is just so good.
Yes, that's fair. I mean, what's not to love? Like the first Blade film, I think really hold like there's some CGI at the very end that's like, oh God, this is awful. But like for the most part, the plot, the idea, the everything about Blade, like still holds up today. Like when you go and rewatch Blade, a lot of it makes sense to me. Like you could literally pick it up and set it here and it would still be fine.
I still think they should bring Wesley Snipes back. I mean,
At this point, Marvel might fuck around and lose Mahershala. And if they lose Mahershala, because they just lost a director for Blade, they pushed it back another 6 months. They're having all kinds of pre-production. Actually, they haven't even started actual production yet. They're having all kinds of pre-production issues with Blade. So, who knows?
I hope they do. I hope Wesley Snipes is back as Blade. No, I've got no issues with the actor who's currently Blade, but Wesley Snipes is Blade to me.
To me too. Bokeem Woodbine, no, was it Bokeem Woodbine? No, I think it was somebody. There was a Blade series that had been on FX
Oh, that was brilliant. I
a
loved
few
it.
years ago. Yeah, that one was fun, but definitely
That was some rapper guy, wasn't it?
was he a rapper?
Oh, I need to look it up. Hold on.
You're gonna look it up. Okay, well,
Yeah,
while
yeah,
you're
yeah,
looking
yeah.
it up, I think my favorite, like, it's old school, but like I honestly think my favorite vampire film might be Interview with the Vampire.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
which I think I saw that when I was like, I don't know, 9. Very not age appropriate, but that was the movie where I was like, oh my God, Tom Cruise, he's really hot. And then he turned out to be like really crazy. So I guess like old
Uh,
school vampires would be one of my favorite. But Blade is definitely up there. Like I absolutely anytime I catch Blade, like if I'm flipping through the channels, like I will always stop and watch Blade.
oh,
Always.
okay. So Blade, the TV series, came out in 2006. It only lasted 12 episodes. I remember this. It got cancelled,
Hmm.
and it starred a guy. Um, I think he's a rapper, Sticky Fingers.
Oh yeah, Sticky Fingers. That's right. That's right.
His real name is Kurt Jones. He he doesn't really do that much. Like he seems to have regular acting work. Uh, oh, he was in 2 episodes of The Night Of. I love that series. Anyway, so the Blade TV series was like a direct follow on from the
Hmm.
movies. Um, it was very much set in that world. It was all the type of lore. The style of it was very much similar to the movies. I think they kind of dropped a little bit of the sort of the third film and just carried it on almost as if it was like the second film or something.
Hmm.
I can't remember now. I would rewatch that film. Sorry, that TV series. I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah. I've never seen it. I that could potentially find itself on my list, but I have never seen the Blade series. I'm not opposed to it, but I've never seen it.
maybe we should do it one day. Maybe next October or
All
something.
right. Let's
So
done. Done. It's in the books.
anyway, yeah, go on.
Okay, so how do you think that these vampires in this film compare to, vampires of traditional like Hollywood?
So these 30 Days of Night vampires, they reminded me a lot of the vampires in the TV series The Strain.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that show. That was really the first that was a really good first season strain.
Yeah, and so The Strain reminds me a lot of I talk about Falling Skies, how it just got worse every season.
Hmm.
The Strain was very much like Falling Skies, it got worse every season. So The Strain started off strong, but
Hmm.
it just became more and more ridiculous. The Strain did.
Yeah.
I watched it all to the end, but yeah, it got worse. But I, I wouldn't say I overly hate the show,
Yeah.
but the style of the vampires in 30 Days a Night very much reminiscent of the Strain.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I'll give you that. Because I was gonna tell you these vampires, like they don't remind me of vampires, they remind me of the zombies from 28 Days Later. Like that's
yeah, yeah.
that's kind of the speed because they're like super fast, super aggressive. They only have, one thing in mind. And they're not that they're mindless, but like, I don't know. In
Hmm.
these vampires in this film are scary to me because they don't speak. And I think like whenever you have the monster that doesn't speak, well, I mean, they do. They talk to each other, but like we don't ever understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
So like I think that that's always creepier because then it's like now you're leaving it to my imagination. Like now I'm imagining what these vampires are talking about, and of course, like I'm gonna make it way worse than whatever the actual like script writers had in mind. And I think that's probably what plays up to these vampires. I would say up as far as like scary. These are way up there. Like these are way up there as far as scary vampires, especially because like they descend upon this town when they know that the town is about to have 30 days with no sunlight whatsoever. It's like a giant like buffet for them.
I think I prefer more normal sort of vampires, like um, what you'd see in the Dracula TV series that came out years ago,
Yeah.
or one of the vampire things I love is the Vampire Diaries.
Hmm.
I like that TV show, but one of the things I do love about the show is the rings that they have, the daylight rings. I think that's pretty cool.
Mm.
Like that they have the ability to walk around, but there's a there's a reason behind it. So oh crap, what's it called? Oh, Discovery of Witches.
Hmm.
How the vampires just walk around in the day and there's kind of no explanation for it. I
Yeah.
hate that. Like I like it when there's an explanation.
I
Like,
like it that they don't bring it up. Like I like that it's just not a thing.
yeah, I guess because what they're trying to say is that actually what you guys know about vampires and what actually is true is very
Right.
different.
Right.
So, but then I would love a little bit of how that came about. Then, like
Hmm.
how did that room? You know, I guess in Discovery Witches, I'd love it if they said, oh, you know, maybe there was a period of time that we couldn't, or I don't know, like. But I think the daylight rings in the Vampire Diaries are brilliant. Like, I think that's a really cool element, and that
Yeah.
not everybody has daylight rings.
Yeah.
So, um, probably one of my favorite vampires actually is Angel from the Buffy TV series.
Okay. All
Like
right.
that's probably one of my most favorite
Yeah.
of vampires. Like I don't know, I love
I
Jay
always like the
Boreanaz.
transition that Angel made, like when he went from human to
Oh,
vampire.
the
Like,
grisly
yeah, yeah,
face.
yeah.
I didn't like. That was the one bit I didn't like.
I
I
did.
didn't like the weird face that all of them would pull.
Yeah.
I really loved Angel. That TV series actually became. So I loved Buffy, and then when Angel went
I
over,
liked Angel so much better than Buffy.
oh, so did I. Like I
Yeah.
think the next season without Angel was okay when she was first year of college,
Hmm.
and introduced the boyfriend who was in the sort of vampire army. Well, it was a US army division that killed monsters. I can't remember. Do you remember his name?
No.
Finn? Was it Finn or something? I can't remember. But like she met some boyfriend in college, and that first season I thought was okay without Angel. But then when they transitioned over to Angel, every season of Angel was just so good.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed that Angel got cancelled. And it only got cancelled because Joss Whedon got a bit too big for his boots and said was it on the CW or WB or something? Um,
Yeah. WB.
yeah, basically, he said every season used to finish the same, that they wouldn't know if they were getting renewed. So he'd kind of have to end it. So I think apparently before it ended, so I don't know, halfway through or 5-10 episodes before, he turned around and said to WB, look, can you just give us an early renewal just so I can, you know, just tell everyone they don't have to worry.
Hmm.
Apparently the WB didn't like it, so they were like, nah, cancelled. Like, don't be
I
too big for your boots.
I wouldn't be
Like,
surprised. I would not be
um,
surprised at all if that's what happened.
So, but it had such a great ending. It annoyed me at the time, but it had such a great ending that Angel and everybody was in the alleyway, and it ended mid-battle. Do you
Yes.
remember that?
Yes, where everybody's like running at the screen
Yeah,
and then it just
yeah.
fades to black and you're like, what is
What?
happening?
I know.
What is
At the
happening?
time, I was so annoyed because I
Ah,
was like, "What?" It was
yeah.
like that last 10 minutes, everything was getting going, and then it just like runs into thing, and that's it. Titles come up. I
Yep.
was so annoyed, but then when I look back, I was like, "Actually, what a great ending!"
Yeah.
Like,
Because it left everything to your imagination.
yeah,
Everything.
like, and also Angel was always about the battle, so even if that battle had been resolved, Angel wasn't going to go sit on the beach.
No.
So, well, I mean, he
No.
couldn't in the daylight anyway, but like, so, so yeah. But anyway,
All right. Do
so
you have any Halloween recommendations? Any films that you always watch for Halloween or anything like that?
I like. Do you know what I like? It sometimes. Like when Disney actually do a lot of the family sort of Halloween films,
Oh yeah,
like
like it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
yeah, all of these things. Like I don't have a
Yeah.
particular one, but I've been in America quite a few times during October, and I always see like oh, you've got a family. Oh, I can't remember. There used to be a TV channel in America called Family.
Oh, ABC Family.
Yeah. I think you guys have rebranded it now, haven't you, or something?
Yeah, I
But
can't remember what it's called.
but
Freeform, I think.
yeah. But you on ABC Family, there would always be like Halloween themed stuff every day, but it was always family friendly.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of Halloween part I like. I'm never going to watch the horrible stuff. But I guess if I was going to recommend anything to somebody that didn't mind Halloween and hadn't done it, oh, actually, I've just thought of something. A really cool Halloween film, which clearly is not for children, and I remember somebody didn't know the twist in this film. I sat with someone and I deliberately didn't tell them
Uh-huh.
because I said, "Have you ever watched this movie?" No. I mean, do you know anything about it? No. I went fucking brilliant. I was like, and
Oh my god, what movie is it? I want to know.
Dust Till Dawn.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, and because it starts as like a crime thing, and
Yes,
then
yes.
and then it turns
And
into
then it just goes so far away from that, and you're like, what the fucking, what is happening?
I remember like watching it like with this friend of mine. Like, this is obviously a long time. Most people probably know the twist now. Like, but you know, it's a crime caper. You
Yeah.
know, whatever. They end up in this bar in Mexico, and just all of a sudden, yeah, I would say that. If I mean, I know I'm ruining it now, but like that was a good one. So
Okay. Yeah.
obviously, and it's vampires too. So
Well, mine is it's kitty themed. So like Ernest Scared Stupid is my favorite of the Ernest P. Worrell
well,
films, all of them.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Ernest Scared Stupid is my favorite. It is so funny, but it is also really scary. When I was a kid, that movie and the troll that they have as the villain in that movie, that film is the reason why whenever like I get scared, like I never ever look behind me ever. Like, and everybody's always like, no, you got to look behind you because the monster is always behind you. And I'm like, no, it's because of Ernest Scared Stupid. Like, there's one scene where one of the kids is like flipping out and she thinks that troll is following her. She's in her bed and she's like, oh my God, I have to look under the bed. And she like works up the courage to look under the bed, and there's nothing under the bed, right? But when she sits up again and rolls over, the troll is in the bed with her, and it is the scariest freaking scene in the whole movie. And like so, like to this day, if I am like scared and I am already in bed, I will never, ever, I never turn around. I never turn around. I never look at what's behind me, and I don't check under the bed. I'm like one of those people where it's like, if I just keep my eyes closed, it'll go away. Like.
Yeah,
Ernest Scared Stupid, though. If you have not seen Ernest Scared
I've not
Stupid,
seen it.
it is it's my favorite. It's better than Ernest Goes to Jail. It's better than Ernest Saves Christmas. Ernest Scared Stupid is the one. Eartha Kitt is actually in this movie, and it's like, how the hell did an Ernest film get Eartha Kitt to be in this movie with him?
Oh, I've not. I don't. I've never seen those, but I am like you though in terms of if I don't look, it's not there.
Yep. I 100%. Like I forever will be that person that's like, I'm just keep my eyes closed. Like I don't care what I hear, I don't care what it sounds like. Like I don't care what else is going on. I'm keep my eyes closed, and as long as I don't see it, it's fine. Like it's cool.
um. Yeah. No, I'm the same. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I
So
was gonna say we should.
basically, the both of us are like chickens. So we like
Yeah.
scary stuff, but we only like certain scary things, and all the other scary things can just like piss off.
Yeah. No, certain elements of scary stuff,
Yeah.
like, but not. Yeah, I'm not full. Like vampires is cool. Like I'll do vampires.
Yeah, I like vampires. Werewolves, it depends. Like some werewolves are a bit too scary for me. But sometimes I'm okay with like werewolves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the stuff I don't like, I anything with possession or
No.
exorcisms,
No.
like
No. No.
I
No.
can't do it. Like as much as I love Constantine, I skip the
Yeah.
first 10 minutes of that movie every time I watch it. Like I hate that exorcism scene at the very beginning.
I love the old American Werewolf in Paris, I think it is, or no, American Werewolf in London. Sorry, American Werewolf in London. I remember. I mean, I've only seen it a couple of times, so a long time ago. The werewolves one that I like the most is I forgot the name of them. The franchise. The first couple are really good. Vampires versus Werewolves.
Underworld?
Yeah, Underworld. Yeah, Lycans. They obviously call them.
Yeah. Okay. So I cannot stand the Underworld series, but the third film, Rise of the Lycans, is so good. Like Rise of the Lycans is one of my favorites of all time, but like the first and second Underworld, and then the next one that comes after Rise of the Lycans, I hate it. Like I hate the entire. I just don't like the vampires in that world at all. But the werewolves are really cool.
I love the first three movies. I have seen the fourth one, but I can't remember it, and I don't think I think there's a fifth one. I don't think I've seen it. Maybe one day. But anyway, 30 Days of Night.
Yes.
30 Days of Night.
The meat and potatoes.
Yeah, the meat and potatoes. Right, 30 Days of Night is from IDW Publishing by Steve Niles and Ben Temple Smith. The movie is written by Steve Niles, Stuart Beatty or something, and Brian Nelson. It is directed by David Slade. It stars Josh Hartnett, Melissa George, Mark Boone Jr., Mark Rendell, Amber Sainsbury, Ben Foster, and Danny Houston. The budget was 30 million US dollars, total box office earnings of 75.5 million.
I mean, it doubled its money.
I mean, you
Can't go
can't.
wrong, yeah.
It didn't have any. I mean, Joss Hartnett was probably the biggest star in it.
Yeah.
Melissa George is a
She
name that
wasn't that
people.
big at the time.
No, and I don't think she's even really that big now. Really, she's
Mhm.
never really. I don't think she's ever. She's probably what I'd consider more like a working actress. She don't.
Mhm.
What I mean by that is
She's not like superstar.
yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think people know her, but
Mhm.
she's not massive. So she probably couldn't retire. She's
Yet.
probably like
Mhm.
she probably. I mean, don't get me wrong. She probably earns a good salary, like
Yeah.
but she probably doesn't earn enough that she could then retire, like stop acting and be okay for life. Like,
Mhm.
so anyway, summary. The summary of the movie. A polar night descends upon the town of Barrow, Alaska. The locals who remain to stick out their 30 days of perpetual night are terrorized by a horde of vampires. A small group manages to survive an entire month of hell, but at what cost? Quite a large cost. So,
Yeah.
uh, this film came out actually originally in 2007, I believe.
Yep.
And so I guess in terms of summarizing my thoughts versus thoughts, I feel like it's versus thoughts of then versus now.
Mhm.
I think I remember at the time really loving the movie when it came out, and I probably watched it quite a lot, 4 or 5, maybe 10 times even. Really
Wow.
loved the whole. Maybe I really loved it when it first came out.
Mhm.
Um, it was something I loved, the atmosphere of it, the tone of the movie. I thought it was a really unique idea that there's a town that doesn't have daylight for 30 days. I do think there are parts of I think Alaska that do get I don't get that as well. I didn't actually look it up before this episode, but I remember at the
Yes.
time looking it up.
Parts of Alaska, parts of Iceland actually do have this polar night where it is just always dark.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy as well. Like I
Yeah.
didn't. Did you look it up?
Well, I mean, I've known that for a while. So, but I
So
didn't.
is it as long as 30 days or
It's
or
yeah, it's a while. Because they also have the reverse that happens where it's like the sun never sets. They're so far north that in the winter it's perpetual night and the sun never rises, and then they also have in the summer where it's like perpetual day and the sun never
wow?
sets. Yeah,
So the same
it's a big
place, same
problem for
town.
like insomniacs and that kind of thing. Yeah,
Wow, that must be a frustrating place to live. That like
yeah.
like really depressing in the winter, and then
Oh
really
yeah,
like
that's
cool.
why like the beginning of the film to me kind of like it sums it up. Like everybody is trying to get out of town because they don't want to have 30 days of night. They don't want to
Yeah.
be in that perpetual nightfall. So that's why a lot of the town like shuts down and leaves, and then only a few people kind of stay behind and keep things running.
Hmm. I mean, that must be you must be really committed to the survival of the town. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think my thoughts of it first. I used to really love it. I think my tastes have really changed. I would say
Mm.
that I'm more. I wouldn't say I hate it, but I would say I more now don't like it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like I guess probably would give it a higher score years ago, maybe not so much now.
So what is it that you
So
don't like about it now?
I just don't think my tastes are not. I just don't think my tastes are the same as they were. Like the
Mm.
villains of the movie have got no character development or anything like that. They are just monsters.
Yeah.
And whilst you can see, oh, do you know what? Those monsters remind me a little bit of Army of the Dead as well.
Yes.
From
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. I know they're zombies, but they're the
These
zombies.
vampires feel very zombie like though.
Yeah, they are. And whilst you can see there was clearly a leadership structure in this pack of
Hmm.
vampires, they're very just I don't know, kind of just one-dimensional villains,
Yeah.
and they just all they want to do is eat and kill, and that to me is more in the horror world. Yeah, I don't know, just I wasn't. I don't think I'm as interested in sitting down just to watch a pack of essential animals just hunt down humans. That's
Yeah.
not something I think I'm that bothered about in my 40s now. Like mid 20s, a few friends and us would sit down and watch something like this and think it was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm some sort of snob now, but I guess I want something. I guess I want something
With
that's
a
got a
little
little
more
bit more.
substance.
Yeah, I like something
Yeah.
that's got a bit more substance in it.
Yeah.
I probably would say my horror choices, whilst I have never been a massive fan of horror, like I probably would like it less now
Mm-hmm.
than I did in my 20s.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think just my tastes have changed really. It's not necessarily that there's a overall problem with the movie, because I think a movie could easily come out like this now and
Oh
people
yeah.
would still like it. But I just think that me as a person, I
Hmm.
guess I've grown and I've changed, and like
Wow. Imagine
like
that.
like yeah, I think like I say, there's nothing overly wrong with the film.
Yeah.
um, I think that the acting, especially by Joss Hartnett, is really good.
Hmm.
Like, I think Melissa George isn't the best of actresses, unfortunately. She's kind of the same character in everything she's in.
Hmm.
I think they probably should have recast her. Her only real brilliant moment was right at her finals moment, like this final scene. Her facial expression actually changed. It was it was the same face throughout the whole movie until the last scene. So like, but I did love it. I did love it in terms of, I think it's a brilliant idea.
Hmm.
30 Days of Night, vampires rocking up and terrorizing a town to have a meal over a month period. I think that's a really unique idea. That part I love. I just don't think I'm as keen on, I guess, just monsters eating humans for a whole movie. So
Okay. I
I
mean, I
do
guess that's
have
fair.
I do have moments in there I like though. Like
Yeah.
we'll talk about those in a minute. But Phil, what you? What's your summary?
Um, I I think that I'm sort of the opposite. I liked this movie when I first saw it, but I think I liked it better this time. What I like the most about this film is that the vampires have a communication structure, but we are never privy to it. There are no subtitles when the vampires are talking. And so as the viewer, you never have any idea what they're saying. And to me, that was scarier. Like this is not the kind of like, oh god, scary film like but that was because now it's in my head. Like now I'm putting words in their mouth. You know what I mean? Like I'm the one that's imagining what they're saying to each other. And I think that that element, leaving involving the audience in such a way that they have to fill in the gaps, I think that kind of makes it a bit scarier. So I really kind of like that there's no explanation whatsoever. We drop into this town right before their hell season starts. Like even if there hadn't been vampires, like people go stir crazy in places like that because of the no sunlight. So like it's already a town on edge. They're already chaotic trying to get everybody that is trying to get out is trying to get out before this blizzard comes in, before the airport closes. Like there's all this stuff happening and then you throw vampires in on top of it with no explanation and
Mm.
no understanding as the audience as to what the vampires motives are. So it almost feels like we as the viewers are also the townspeople because we have no idea why these vampires are here, where they came from, like what their purpose is. So I think like this time around watching it this far removed from having seen it like the first few times, it's like it feels heavier to watch it because now I'm also panicking. I'm like why are they doing this? You know what I mean? Like you're asking the same questions that the characters in the film are asking. Um Also though, this time around, like one of my beefs with this film was Josh Hartnett is entirely too young to be sheriff of a town like this. Like this is the kind of place where it's a good old boys club. Like I'm sure that the sheriff in this town is probably like 75 years old. Like I just can't imagine a young guy being in charge of a place like this. So that was kind of a sticking point for me this time while I was watching it. But also like I I don't understand cold weather. Like, so this entire setting is also frightening to me because I would have no idea how to behave in weather like that. Like, cold weather to me, especially cold weather where it's like blizzards and there's snow everywhere and it's hard to get around, like that by itself, just the element of weather like that is also frightening because, like, how do you operate within it? Right? Like, how do you actually like keep yourself alive? Like there's a film with Kate Beckinsale that I actually do like. It's called Whiteout, where they're like on a base in Antarctica and they're trying to get out before this big blizzard happens and they don't make it and now they got to stick out the blizzard. Like, or The Thing from the 80s, the John Carpenter film with Kurt Russell. Those kinds of films that are set within this like snowpocalypse kind of thing, those are frightening to me just in general. Like I grew up in a place where it's perpetual summer. Like we have 1 week a year where it gets cold. Like, so trying to fight vampires in a place where a climate is not anything that I'm used to, like, so there were a whole bunch of other elements like that make this film scary to me. And I think the weather itself plays like a big role in that. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about it.
I was gonna say we don't get extreme. Well, we don't get blizzards over here. But there have been times where the weather has been horrendous in the UK. Like I always remember this. I want to say it was like 13, 14 years ago. I used to live near this big shopping centre, and there's this big shop over here called John Lewis, which sells like everything, tumble dryers, beds. It's quite more like a high end shop. So the weather was so bad. So I used to work in an office near where my parents live, and me and my wife, actually, I don't think we were married at the time, but we were living in an apartment, and the weather was so bad, and she was pregnant as well. So she was on a second floor flat. The weather was so bad, I actually said to her, "Do not leave the flat." Like that's like an apartment, obviously you guys call it. And I had to stay at my parents for like two or 3 days because the weather was that bad. It was probably about 30 or 40-minute drive, but on the motorway, people were just abandoning their cars. That's how bad the weather was. And so this John Lewis was around the corner from where our apartment was, and people actually on the first night, the shopping centre, and it closed at 8, so this weather kicked in quite badly. The shopping centre said to everybody that it was too dangerous for them to leave and that they could all stay the night. So people slept in the shopping centre overnight, and they opened up like duvets and bedspreads, and they had lots of beds on display, so they said people can sleep in the beds and that kind of thing. So whilst I have never lived in somewhere like this, I think I probably, maybe because you've not seen it as much, but every now and again we do get really bad weather. It's not that often, but I would say like we do get storms and stuff like that. But obviously we don't get, I don't see the kind of weather that Florida sees, but we do see the cold.
See, that's what I'm used to. I'm used to hurricanes.
Well, we see the cold quite regularly over here. Even now it's cold. So so I think I probably would maybe have that bit that I could survive. And so we always have, I've got some big North Face coats in the in the house and stuff like that. So I probably would be able to wrap up a bit more and be ready. But I guess you may not necessarily have those on hand. But I mean, hopefully we're never going to see a pack of zombies or vampires show up.
I mean, fingers crossed.
Anyway, so do you have a favorite character?
Honestly, I think I'd have to say that Josh Hartnett was probably my favorite character, because he kind of didn't like beat around the bush. Like stuff starts happening first, they kill the dogs, and then they take all the cell phones from the town, then they kill the dogs, like getting rid of all of like things that'll alarm you to intruders. And at one point, he goes to the cell tower to check on the guy, finds that guy's head on a spike, and is like, oh shit, like something is horribly wrong. And just kind of immediately like drives through town with his little bullhorn, like, go inside, lock your doors, like there's some stuff going on. I don't know what it is, but like, we got to fix this. To me, he was very oriented on, this is a problem and we need to protect ourselves. And so I like that he was not wishy-washy at all. Like he'd make a decision and then he would do it. And then, like, obviously we see that to the very end where it's like he turns himself into a vampire essentially. And he's like, this is the only way that we can beat these guys. And if it means that the rest of you can survive this, this 30 days of night, then I'm fine with making that sacrifice. And so I just kind of like that anytime anything came up, he was like, well, this is the plan. And everybody's like, yeah, but that's a stupid plan. And he's like, this is the plan. Like, this is what we're going to do. And I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Because I think a lot of stuff gets dragged down in films like this, where people just argue with each other back and forth. Like, no, that's dangerous. And no, you have to protect so-and-so. And he was very much just like, oh, I got to go to grandma's house because she's the one that has the UV lights. And everybody's like, yeah, but you can't do that. And he's like, okay, so I'm going to grandma's house and I'm going to get these UV lights and you guys go to this other place and I'll meet you there. So he was very decisive. And I think that is something that's rare and especially in this kind of like horror genre. So it was refreshing to have someone make decisions.
I would agree with you. So there's a lot of actors in this movie that I think. Oh, actually, I've got the list up in front of me. There's a lot of actors in here that I think are strong TV actors.
Mm-hmm. Like Manu Bennett, except he played a shitty character in this one. I love Manu Bennett though.
Was it Mark Jr. is obviously
From
I've
Sons
seen
of
him.
Anarchy.
Yeah, Sons of Anarchy. That's what I was about to say. He's in loads of things. Sons of Anarchy is probably the one I know him from the most.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ben Foster is probably the other big.
Does
actor.
Ben Foster ever play a normal guy? Like, I don't think I have ever seen a film that, except for X-Men, maybe, like he was Angel, but like Ben Foster always plays that really fucking creepy dude that you like wouldn't want to be within 10 feet of. Always. It's so bizarre to me. Like, Ben Foster, do you have a normal life? Like, do you ever smile? Do you what do your real teeth look like? Honestly, because like I feel like every time I see him in a movie, he's always wearing these crazy prosthetics, and he's always playing like a literal psycho.
He played the creepy guy really well, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, the vampire does have a name. The leader, Marlowe.
Vicente.
I think.
Oh.
So Danny
Houston.
Yeah, so actually does have a name here, Marlowe. I think Stella, I would say, played by Melissa George, is actually the weakest character in this, because I think Melissa George, unfortunately, is just not a strong actress. I just think she's very one note. Facial expressions never really change from pouty, and that's kind of it. Sure, she's lovely in real life. I just think her acting skills are just not that great. From the side characters, I would say the actress I did think was good in this was Amber Sainsbury, and I recognised her straight away. She's a British actress. She was in oh no, sorry, I'm wrong. I thought she was British. She was in a British TV show. That's why I thought she was British. She was actually from New Zealand. She's in a TV series called Hex that came over here in the UK like 20 years ago or something, and she played a really sort of wealthy sort of one of those clueless types in the TV series. But I agree, unfortunately, the strongest actor in this and the best character probably is Josh Hartnett's character. And I think that goes to say a lot, though. That's probably where a lot of their budget. I imagine Josh Hartnett took the biggest salary.
Oh yeah, he was the guy at that point. That was like at the height of his career.
Yeah, oh yeah. So he was in the facility. Oh, I liked the facility, by the way.
The faculty.
The faculty. Sorry, the faculty.
That's his first film. His first major. My favorite Josh Hartnett film is Lucky Number 11.
I think I've seen that, but not. But yeah, the faculty was one of those horror movies that came out at the time when Scream was big. I know we did last summer. I actually did like the faculty. We should maybe look at that one day.
Yeah, that was Robert Rodriguez.
So I think I agree with you on a lot of the points of what you said about his take charge attitude. It was get the job done. And I would say, whilst I didn't overly love the movie, I think the last 15-20 minutes when Josh Hartnett makes the decision that he's going to become a vampire himself and save the day, I loved that whole I've got to do it. And when Melissa George's character says to him, what have you done to yourself? And he said, did what I needed to do. And like he knew to say, because basically everyone was standing around in that sort of factory thing.
Yeah.
So talking about all the other towns that are nearby.
Yep.
About how if the vampires burn us all down, they won't know and they'll think it's an accident. So they're all standing around having a chat. So Evan's obviously thinking, actually, they've all got a point. Like, he's kind of processing that. And then suddenly he's like, right, okay, I'm going to become a vampire and go out there and kill these people. So you lot can all stand a chance of actually spreading the word. Now, whether or not people believe that pack of vampires show up is another story.
Yeah.
The evidence is fairly limited. To be honest, he probably should have kept himself alive in some sort of jail cell. I don't know how strong those things were. He probably could have busted out. So, but they probably would have needed some element of proof. So, anyway, there is that. I think it was great that he stood up and said, no, I'm going to sacrifice my life and just save everybody, including the woman I love. And I think there was a really touching moment where he's dying and he's hugging into his wife and, and he dies. And yeah, that for me was probably my favorite scene. But I think overall, I think yeah, Josh Hartnett's character was the standout for this movie. Unfortunately,
Unfortunately.
well, I think again, probably maybe my tastes have changed, and I probably a
Yeah.
lot of this was more acceptable to me a long time ago. But I definitely think we needed a stronger lead actress. So
Mm.
you know, Melissa George to me is okay. Like she's not. I
Yeah,
don't know.
there's not much to her character, Stella, at all.
No,
Like she didn't have much to work with.
no. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think Melissa George is that great. Like, um, I've never seen her in anything where I've went like, yeah, actually, she's brilliant. So,
She was pretty good in that Amityville horror remake with Ryan Reynolds.
not seen that.
Yeah, it's scary as shit.
Probably why I've not seen it.
Yeah.
I remember her being in Grey's Anatomy, and she was kind of a bubbly character. That she was okay in.
Yeah. I also
But
think that 2007 was probably the very beginning of like her rise.
mm,
So I'm sure she's better now than she
yeah,
was in 2007.
okay. So we've talked a lot about the movie throughout. Um, we've kind of touched a lot on the writing and covered my favorite scene. But is there anything that you'd say is your favorite?
Uh, favorite scene. Honestly, probably the goriest scene in the film when Bo decides, you know what, I'm gonna buy you guys some time, and he gets in this. I don't even know what the thing is called. Like
Oh,
a
that chopper thing.
yeah, the thing that's got like
Oh, I
the
love that scene.
chainsaw
Yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah.
front, and he's just like driving through town, and like vampires go flying, and then they get split in half. It's just like it's the goriest, grossest scene in the film, and I'm
You
like,
know what?
yeah, this is awesome.
If they had about 3 or 4 of those things, they could have taken out that pack of zombies, like
Yeah,
zombies. I keep saying zombies, vampires. I actually thought, this is brilliant. He's just cutting those whole people up. But no, that was a
yeah,
great scene.
yeah. I
I
enjoyed that.
so
He had the shotgun. He would like buzz and blow heads off. Like he was. That was one of my favorite scenes where it's like, yes, another take charge kind of, but like he knew he wasn't going to make it out alive
yeah,
on the other side. But like at the same time, he was like, I'm going all in, man.
yeah. No, I like that. So yeah, Josh Hartnett when he fought the lead vampire and kills him, that's my
Hmm.
favorite scene. And then sort of to link with that when he dies, not in the arms of his wife, I think that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that scene there with the chopper thing was
Hmm.
freaking brilliant. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah,
That was fun. It's like this is exactly why you watch these kinds of movies. Like you watch them for these unbelievable, ridiculous, never possible like action sequences.
yeah.
So that was fun. Like if I had seen this in theaters, like that scene would have been worth the price of the ticket.
You wanted to talk about the sequel, so we haven't watched the sequel.
No, but I mean, like, so one of the things that I always thought when I was watching this film, even the first time, is at the end, what you were saying, like when they're in the factory and they realize that the vampires are going to burn the town down and they're going to die no matter what, like this is going to happen again to the next town, the next town, the next town. And I was like, what would that look like? Like, what if we picked up a sequel right where this leaves off? And it's kind of like, how do you prepare these other tiny towns to go through what you went through? Because
Mm.
Josh Hartnett kills the leader, but like the pack itself is still very much like alive. I mean, there were quite a few of the vampire pack left that ended up just leaving town when they lost their leader.
Well,
So
I
it's
imagine what would have happened was that the pack would have a big infight
of
for the
course,
new
of
leader.
course,
So, because it was like an animal pack, there'd need to be a new alpha.
yeah,
So there might be 2 or 3 of them that might kill themselves in a bit of a brawl. So that will
yeah,
probably happen. Like a political structure would happen, and then versus what would happen with the town.
hmm
I think they would struggle to get other people to
believe him,
believe them.
yeah,
So I don't know. I think I would imagine that whilst they might tell the other towns, they would not believe them.
yeah,
But I would say that if you were trying to be sensible and say, well, come on, look, would you really lean on the side that we're wrong? And when the next night happens, you all get killed off? Or would you like to just maybe take on board that we are right? And what does it cost you for us to be right? So I would want to set up some big, those lights that Josh Hartnett had,
yep, the UV lights,
the UV lights. So I would want to set up loads of those UV lights across town,
yeah.
and basically those vampires come in, whack the lights on, kill them all off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so like that if I were writing a sequel, that would be my plot. Like they pick a town and now they know we've got a year before this happens again. So you have a year to get your shit together, to get everything, and be like reinforcing buildings and reinforcing windows so that they can't like, so that when you lock yourself in your house, you have actually like almost like a panic room, like you've turned your whole house into a panic room. So basically you reinforce the town to make this town vampire proof, or as vampire proof as you could. That would have been my sequel, but the sequel that they came up with was Stella, who now is recast as someone else. It's all like the sequel went straight to video, so it's all C and D list actors. But so Stella goes on to this conference and she's trying to tell the world about vampires and yada yada yada. And then it's like she goes to LA, and so then the whole plot becomes like, well, now we're fighting vampires in LA, and I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, I get that, but like, I really, really love this premise of 30 Days of Night. Like, this is a phenomenon that happens at this part of the world specifically. Like, this is our problem to face. So I would have kept, if I had done the sequel, I would have kept it in the same setting. Like, I would not have moved them to a different city. And especially not to Los Angeles.
The vampires don't seem like they would have necessarily the intelligence to have worked out that she'd be in LA and go track her down, but I'm assuming that's probably what happens.
Well, it's different. It's like so the plot is that they have like a queen. And so the queen is based somewhere else. And so now there's this other troop of like vampire hunters that recruit Stella, and then they go and like try to find the queen. It's
okay.
Yeah, it go like to me the sequel gets way, way far away from the point of this film. Like the point of this film is like, these people live in an isolated town, and the vampires had the right idea. Like, this is an isolated town. It's 30 Days of Night. Half the town leaves for those 30 days before they come back. Like, if we set this pipeline on fire and the whole town burns down, who the hell is going to know what happened? Like, you're not going to be able to differentiate anything. Like, all you're going to find are like remains, and you won't know like how these people died. You'll just assume that there was some kind of pipeline explosion and the town was decimated in the pipeline explosion. You know what I mean? And I thought that was like, that to me, that was really smart on the vampires part. Like, A, this is a win-win for us. It's 30 days with no sunlight. And B, we just burn this bitch down like when we're done. And then we leave town and we do it again next year.
I think for the sequel, we'll have to watch it for next October. But okay, so what would you rate this out of 5?
I'd give this one a 3.5.
I'd give it a 3.
Okay.
I was somewhere between 2 and 3 in the footnote, because the sequel sounds awful. So if I was to compare it, so I'd give it a 3 out of 5. So okay, so that's on our list of comic book related movies. We're 3 down. We're 3 down. 375 to go. No, man. Actually, I don't know how many there is. We're
probably more than 375. I think that's
So our next movie is going to be Black Panther, which we're going to do Black Panther next week. The first one, to get ready for the second one.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Yeah. So obviously we know Black Panther's first appearance was in The Winter Soldier, but we will not be covering those right now. But anyway, so Black Panther next week. So you can follow us on social media. We're Geeks Unleashed everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcast: Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. We are everywhere. So please leave us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
Thank you very much. Cheers for listening.
Good journey.
Good journey.